I love when two of our worlds collide. That's what happened over the last few days here on KCMO Talk Radio. So our good friend Patrick Tuohy with the Show Me Institute, they focus on the Missouri side. But Patrick wrote an opinion piece in the Kansas City Star. And he basically wrote about Blue Valley schools and how they're spending more money and they're more flush with cash than ever before. And the reality is the education standards have gone down. The student scores have not been as good, despite the fact that they are taking in more money than ever before. And that's obviously something that our friends at the Kansas Policy Institute have been focused on for a long time. So Tuohy writes this piece in the Kansas City Star. The headline, Blue Valley schools are flush with cash. Why are academics slipping? The Blue Valley superintendent responds to Patrick Tuohy in an email to Blue Valley families. And here to break it all down is Dave Trabert with the Kansas Policy Institute. Dave, good morning. I know you've got a big smile on your face seeing this back and forth and knowing that you're not at the center of it this time.
Well, good morning, Pete. Actually, you're right. There's a smile on my face, but not for that reason. I'm going to start with the good news. We're starting to see more school districts, administrators, the superintendents admitting, okay, yeah, we have a problem. They're listening to their community and they're hearing that parents are not happy with the product being produced. Certainly some kids do well. But overall, every district has a lot of academic challenges. So some are doing it, but not in Johnson County. Blue Valley, the way that the Superintendent Chapman responded was to, you correctly stated Patrick's premise, and she gave false impressions of high achievement. And she basically said, we still don't have enough money. And neither are true. So, for example, and this is a standard tactic. They said, according to U.S. News and World Report, Blue Valley is among the 7 best high schools in Kansas, and that is what U.S. News and World Report said. But she didn't say that according to U.S. News and World Report, less than half of high school students in Blue Valley are college ready.
Wow.
Which is more important? We
Yeah.
have a high ranking because we're not as bad as others, or what do we actually achieve?
It's the tallest midget argument they're making there. I mean, that's what that is right there. Well, we're taking all your money and we may be doing worse academically with your kids, but at least we're better than fill in the blank school district in Garden or Dodge or Wichita or wherever else. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, Dave. I mean, parents don't care about that.
No, they don't. And then she proceeds to give false information about their funding. The implication, I mean, you notice the same is true with funding as it was with achievement. She didn't address any specifics. She gave the magician's trick of deflection. Look over here so you don't see what this hand is doing. She talked about, other districts get a lot more state and federal funding. Well, why is that? Mm-hmm. Because Blue Valley is flush with local property tax. It's the wealthiest district in the state. Yeah, the state makes up funding for districts that are property poor. So, but it doesn't mean that Blue Valley has less to operate on. They're budgeting to spend almost $21,000 a student this year. She didn't mention that. She said, because Patrick pointed out the reserves, she said, we only have about $16,000 in unencumbered reserves.
$16 million,
that's a flat out, that's a flat out lie according to her own budget. They try to make things up to excuse, because here's the ugly truth about a lot of school districts. The system is set up to make the system look good. The primary focus is not to improve student outcomes. They'd like to see it happen, of course, but not if it means they have to change their own behaviors.
That is so well said. Dave Trabert with the Kansas Policy Institute is here on KCMO. And I also found it interesting that at no point did the Blue Valley superintendent and her name is Jillian Chapman. At no point in her email to parents responding to Patrick Tuohy's opinion piece in the Kansas City Star did she basically say his information on student achievement was inaccurate. It was more about playing the shell game with the money and how the money's being spent and what the money's there for and what they're doing with the money. She never actually said anything about the fact that their ACT scores by graduation year are down and have been trending down for the last decade. Nothing about that. Just let's play a shell game with the money. Dave, what do you make of that and how do you interpret that?
Well, that's pretty standard. Patrick's premise was you've got a lot of money. The budgets are growing. Why aren't we seeing the outcomes? Well, so for example, a legitimate question would be, you have an 18% enrollment over the last 20 years. You have a 49% increase in managers and a 33% increase in other non-teachers. So yeah, you've got plenty of opportunities in addition to tens of millions in the bank left over from prior years. You have opportunities. What are the barriers holding those other kids back? I mean, you look at the state assessment, more than 40% of the students in Blue Valley are not proficient. What are the barriers holding those kids back? How do you allocate the budget, reallocate the funds to overcome those barriers? That's the role of the Board of Education. Not to rubber stamp things, not to be cheerleaders. It's to see that management has a plan to accomplish very specific goals. She said in her response that we have academic goals in our strategic plan. They do not. They have platitudes. They do not have anything that says we're going to go from 40% college ready to 50% college ready in this specific period of time, or proficient in reading and math. They don't have goals. That's what systems do. Systems don't want to set goals because then they can be held accountable to them. So we have platitudes instead.
Give me that number. You said 18% enrollment increase in what, the last 10 years?
20
in the last 20 years. And then a 49% increase in administrative roles?
Yep.
And then what was the other one?
33% in other non-teachers. So managers aren't teachers.
Yeah.
All the other employees except teachers, they're up 33%.
Wow. I mean, talk about spending money outside of the classroom instead of where it needs to be, which is to the great teachers that are doing a really, really difficult job every single day. And they're not, I've always said I'm on the side of teachers here. They're not getting appreciated. They're not getting rewarded here in enough of this, because you have what's turned into a jobs program at the administrative level for adults instead of worrying about and focusing on the teachers in the classrooms.
Yeah, and again, that's the opposite of what's happening. It's in a growing number of mostly smaller districts that we're working with, districts that have invited us to come in and say, look, we have a problem. Can you help us get started here? Where do we look? What's the process? How do we go about putting a real strategic plan together? And we're working it, and we're engaging communities, and everybody's the teachers are enthusiastic, the kids love it, the parents are encouraged, and so I mean these things can happen, and that's what must happen in order to address this really serious achievement crisis we have in Kansas.
That is well said. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute, doing outstanding work on KCMO. They wrote about this at the Sentinel, sentinelksmo.org. Dave, keep up the great work. I'm going to share some of that data from the show just a few minutes ago, and we will talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good one.
Well done. Dave Trabert on 95.7 FM.